Hi, it's Darren from SimNation again. Wanted to do a quick video on game planning for Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2023. Here at WWPF, we just completed the championship game, which pitted the Carolina Panthers, which are coached by Invisible Witness, versus my Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll talk about the results in a little bit, but wanted to say, first of all, thank you to Brooks and the team at Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2023 for just making a solid game title. They've always been open to feedback. 2024 is right around the corner. So definitely I would encourage you to go out to the forums, go out to our Slack channel, and just give some of your thoughts about what you'd like to see in the next version of the game. Brooks and team have always done a great job with taking that feedback and then essentially putting it into the game. The other thing is, I do want to say thank you to the coaches in the WWPF. As we wind down this season, it's been a really, really good season. There were a couple shocks here and there, but large and by large, it was a very great season. We got a bunch of new coaches in this year who have done really great work, and of course, that's coupled with established coaches. One of those new coaches, Invisible Witness. I know he's coached in other leagues, but this was his first season here on WWPF, and he made it to the championship game. And generally speaking, I've been in this league for a while now, and I've got to see the greats like Grasshopper, Butcherjack, OK Bandit, Noah, Frankie, GB Morris, Skelter, the like, right? Doc is in there as well. But I will say, as well as Peter, who is one of the coaches in the league now, there's a top echelon of coaching. Peter's definitely at the top of it. Then you have probably DP in there as well. And I would put Invisible Witness in that just slightly second tier coach right under Peter. Peter's in a league of his own. Uh, Granted, he didn't make it out of the wild card this season, but that doesn't negate the fact of what he's done. Just a great season from Invisible Witness. Carolina, of course, was a decent team as a CPU. He made them into a great team. And I think you'll be able to really talk about Carolina becoming a dynasty under Invisible. He's a phenomenal coach and he's done a great job. So for me, knowing that I was going to come into the playoffs and actually be playing him made life a little bit difficult for me. So I'm going to log into Pittsburgh real quick and I'm going to kind of show you some things I normally wouldn't show you. But the season's over. I have some plans to change some things up next season. But I wanted to talk about how you game plan, especially in a one and done. Didn't mean to click on him. Uh, Season and kind of walk through the steps I took going into this game. Playoff games are different than regular season games. In regular season games, you can lose a few. You can lose up to 7 in most cases and still make the playoffs. But when you get into the playoffs, it's once and done. So you got to win every single game, and you've got to really invest in the game planning. Otherwise, you're going to run into some issues. So, knowing that I was playing him, I thought about Carolina in terms of what other teams have I played this season that are like Carolina. And the first thing I needed to do was take a look at them. So I actively encourage you to do this as a coach. As a coach in an online league, you can actually see some things about the other team. Anything grayed out means you can't see it, which is good because those are things you shouldn't be able to see. But the first thing I always do is I take a look at the staff. And the reason for that is I'm trying to see are there any tendencies that the CPU is going to do. Also, I want to know what I'm up against. So when I look at Lanier, who's their head coach, he tends to play aggressively. That's going to be important later as we go through the game planning. Um, Really, Invisible doesn't run the system that Lanier wants based on what I've seen, and I'm not going to walk you through the ad nauseum review of the game analysis from every game that he's played, and I did do that actually, um, but what is key for me here is this aggressive title because it tells me he's going to play aggressively. The other thing is when I look at Rusty Adams, I'm looking at the fact again, aggressive, conservative. But the key here that I keyed on here was medium passes, and that it's a run first spread offense. Um, Charles Sellers, of course, the defensive end. What I'm keying in here is man coverage. Again, a balanced approach. And then I'm also looking at things like how good of a coach is he, what traits does he have, and those type of things. Um, so I did do analysis around his game planning. And what I noticed is I was probably going to get one of three flavors from him. And we kind of saw this in the playoffs as well. So I'll show you that because I can show you that. Um, so when he played the Green Bay Packers, and this was in the division championship, so bear in mind, Carolina finished top of the division in the NFC, so they had a bye in the wild card round. So what I looked at here was kind of getting an idea of what he might throw at me. In this case, when you look at the play analysis, what you see is it's a probably about maybe like a 60% pass. So he will run the ball, but he largely passes the ball. When he likes to run the ball, he's typically on first down. He tends to pass more on second. And I saw this throughout the season with him, by the way. Um, but the other thing I would say is when you look at like the Arizona Cardinals, he went away from his game plan. So he didn't do what he normally did. He threw a lot more. And what you saw was probably was maybe 50% on first and 10, maybe. And that's where the 8 comes from. But he definitely threw the ball a lot more on first down than he had previously. RPO I always chalk up as a run, so he was actually pretty balanced on second down, which was different than what he did the previous game. And then also, if we look at that game, one of the things I do look at within the game analysis is I actually look at the plays they call. So that's the wrong team. It'd be right here. So one of the things I'm looking at here is kind of what is he doing, right? So I know these plays because I looked at them in the playbook as well as I just know them in general. When you look at comebacks, that's a medium. Flies along, out is a medium. Curve flats is a short. Tight end deep out is a balanced. Tight end out is a medium. This is a balanced. This is again, like I said before, that's a short game. Ends are typically mediums. Streaks, of course, are long. RB under is a medium. Slants are a short. Where's the slant? There it is. Tight end post is right there, and tight end post is a medium, and then short post, of course, is a medium. So if I was game planning for, if I had noticed that he was doing this a lot, and a lot of coaches do fall into this trap, right? What it would tell me is that he is using medium passes 21 times, long passes 4, short passes 5, balanced 4. Under preparation, I would say medium passing because he's obviously medium passing. When I look at his running game, it's a cross between balanced inside outside, but he predominantly does fall to the outside. So if I was guarding against run and he ran the ball a lot, I would be saying preparation outside running. And I'll show you that in a moment. Now, here's the thing. I know Invisible Witness to be a very good coach. He changes up his game plan based on the opponent. He may or may not use his actual coordinator's playbook. I don't know because I can't see that, right? Um, but what I do know about him is he does switch it up. So I need to take a step back, and I mentioned this earlier, and think about who is he like. So when I look at the roster, um, Zelensky is really his quarterback. He's not going to go away from Zelensky. Zelensky reminds me of Spriggs. Spriggs is the quarterback for the New York Jets, who I played in the previous round. Cannon arm, great accuracy, good intelligence, massive skill. This guy's a stud. Running back wise, his running backs are nothing special. They're good, but he's not going to beat me in the running game. So I really don't think he's going to come at me with a rushing attack, mostly because Pittsburgh is ranked first in the league. They're only giving up on average about 61 yards on the ground. They have two really strong ends, and then the linebacker core is fast and can tackle. Couple that in with Taylor, who's my strong safety, who I do cheat up in the box quite frequently. Very few people are going to go after me in the running attack. Now, if you watch the Jets games, you would see that DP did go after me with the rushing attack and actually had one of the better games this year running the ball against me. Um, but that was also because I went all in on the pass. So I'm gonna, as I game plan, I'm gonna factor in that I need to protect my outside as much as possible because he may try to run at me. If he's gonna run at me with the speed profile he has, he's gonna run to the outside. And now I've seen that. Linemen, he's got good linemen on the interior line. So Kendall and Schultz, I don't have a defensive tackle that can compete with these two. I'm gonna largely try to stay away from them. Tackles, I can compete on the ends because Emmons and Mobley are not very fast. They are strong. They have decent agility, but they're also not good pass blockers. So when I show you Perry and Hickson, who are my two ends, I'm going to speed rush him constantly on the ends because I think I could get away with it. I'm going to try to put my linebackers on his guards to see if I can get some push on the inside and maybe get some sacks that way, but I'm not confident that that's going to work. Uh, I am going to try to run a lot of 3-4 because Smith looks like someone I can speed rush, especially given that I have Drake and Baines who both can move pretty fast. Wide receivers, I've got a problem here, a pretty massive problem actually. Um, Now, when we get to the actual game plan and I show it to you and then I show you the results, you're going to see I made a mistake. Um, I have a suspicion when I looked at this earlier that Invisible was going to try to mirror what the Jets did. And the Jets tried to attack me through the long passing. Also, when I see speed profiles like this, I tend to say I'm not going to prepare against the medium pass because it's not the medium pass that's going to kill me, it's the long pass. So I'm going to set preparation to long passing because I want to take the long pass away. So if he streaks me and he flies me, I can at least mitigate that somewhat. Now, the mistake I made is I thought I could give up 2 points in speed to Andrade with who I had covering him. And the challenge I think I ran into is I couldn't. And candidly, I also forgot. And I thought initially I was going to play a medium passing game. And when I was doing the game planning, it slipped my mind. I had to flip it back to where Riley would be protecting him. But I still think I would have given up a lot of yards to Andrade, mostly because Riley's still operating at like a point of speed difference, whereas the person I put on him was at 2. Um, Now, I've got to cover the agility angle on the 3s and the 4s because the 2 and the 3, I've got to cover wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3. I've got to cover the agility angle because both are agile. These are not necessarily burners. Shoal is a burner, so I got to factor that in. I didn't do very well with the tight end, unfortunately, because I think that in certain sets, Sam King did a great job. A lot of that had to do with the agility, but also it was just that he managed to get free against largely a strong safety and a linebacker, and I didn't think he would, but he did. I probably, again, made a mistake here in the fact that I played Taylor instead of playing his backup, who was much faster, and I probably should have done that, but that's hindsight, right? Cornerbacks, so offensive planning, I have kind of an idea of what he's going to do. I think he's going to go long because he's got the speed profile. I think he saw what the Jets did and he's going to try to attack that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my fastest linebackers out to the edges, so the two outside linebacker positions. I'm going to put stronger linebackers in the middle because I'm going to try to attack the guards. And then I'm going to keep my defensive ends like they are with Perry because I get him back in this game. And Hickson on the edges to just continue to exert pressure on the edges as well as deal with the outside run. And then Cornerback wise, I'm gonna try to put my fastest guys with the best hands out at cornerback one and cornerback two, and then my nickel backs are going to focus more on agility. They'll still have speed because both Hardaway and Kendall are fast. But I'm going to try that approach and see how that works. I'm going to play a lot of 3-4. I'll play a little bit of 4-3, and then I'm going to try to largely stay in nickel and dime, and I'm going to try to press cover. How to try to negate the speed. I do think he's going to go long, so I'm going to play a lot of two deep. And I'm going to try to run mixed coverage throughout the game because I want those safeties falling back because they're going to have to guard against the long pass. So that's kind of my defensive approach. Now, for my offensive approach, when I look at this team and we'll start at the line, he's got speed. He's built for speed on the ends, so I got to keep that in mind because I do like to run outside, as well as he can exert pressure on me from the ends because his people are fast enough to do it. He's also got speed on the inside because Cooper and Pettit, I think, are the two starters. And I'll show you why I say that in a second. Um, and so I'm going to have to make sure my guards are fast enough to deal with that. Strength wise, um, I'm going to have a problem with strength anyways if he decides to bull rush me on the inside. My guards are not that strong. So he's going to probably have his day with them. Linebacker wise, Robertson's the guy I got to worry about. Outside of that, I'm in pretty good shape because most of my running backs and my tight ends are faster than these guys, minus Robertson. By the way, Robertson's a former Steeler. Probably one of the people I regret letting go of a lot. He's just a phenomenal person. I let him go because he was asking for too much, or I thought he was. And then Philadelphia picked him up, and then of course Carolina picked him up after the 1 year deal ended. Um, Cornerbacks, this is not a good matchup for me, speed wise. I have nobody, I think, over 90 speed. So I'm not going to be able to compete speed wise against these. So long passing is out for me. I'm going to need to keep it short and medium. The reason being for that is agility. These guys don't have agility. So Mayo is a starter, Beretto's a nickelback, Sherman, I think, is the second. Billings is also a nickelback. So for wide receiver one, I want to have someone who has lots of agility, and I want to pick plays that are going to focus on getting the ball in the short medium to that person. And then wide receiver three, I want, again, a person who's good on agility, who I can get the ball in short games to. Wide receiver two, I do have someone I think I can attack with in Bradley, and I'll show you him in a minute. So wide receiver two, I'm probably going to go medium a lot of times. I'm not going to throw long. I just don't think I'm going to get anything out of that except for interceptions. Billings, I don't run a lot of four wide receiver sets, so but with Billings, I think that I'm going to just have to factor in whoever's running in wide receiver four is going to have 90 speed or 89 speed to be able to deal with that. He's got a good free safety. Now, in the game, I got fortunate that he got hurt early, and I think that helped me in the fourth quarter um, because there was this big speed differential, especially since this person's. If Brown was able to keep Bohm in check, who's my tight end, but De La Garza, I don't think, was able to keep him in check. Strong safety, Trent Anderson is just amazing, but again, I'm attacking him on agility. So if it's tight end or it's running backs, I'm aiming for the more agile ones to go after him. So offensively, what I'm looking at is a short to medium passing game. Now, the thing I didn't talk about is I've been running the ball a lot this season. I did it in the first round, I did it in the second round, I did it throughout the season. Lackey, of course, has over 2,000 yards during the regular season. He's run for over 200 yards in the two games he's been in. Um, he's done very well for me. So I think I become predictable, so I'm going to be unpredictable in this game. I'm going to throw the ball. I'm not going to run it as much as I can. I still, I'm not going to go all in on the throw because my two quarterbacks are not great. And also, as you can see, I have a problem when it comes to the secondary versus my wide receiver core. So I'm probably going to aim for 60%, maybe 65% throwing the ball, and then keep it short to medium so that way I can maximize on the agility. But like I said before, wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 4, don't be shocked if I put someone in who's fast and try to go long on them or go medium. I'm not going to go long. So that's a quick and easy way to see who you think are the starters. Because again, I can't see his depth chart, right? Is what you can do is like on the offensive line is go Hill. Uh, because of the pancake numbers, I can guess Smith is his starting center. His two tackles are Mobley and Edmonds. Kendall is the starting guard. Uh, Christmas probably played because it was an injury. Schultz looks like the other guard. When I look at the defense, I can do a similar thing by looking at defense, where I can sort it this way and I can say it looks like the starting corridor is Mayo, Sherman is the second corridor, Anderson is the starting strong safety, Robertson is almost always on the field, so is Crutchfield. So those are two of the starters. Brown plays quite a bit and is the starting free safety. Beretto's a nickel. Christensen looks like he's a nickel too. So I need to factor that into my game planning. And in fairness, I didn't. Had I thought about that and had I really looked at this hard, I would have been, wait a second. It's obvious to me that Beretto and Christensen are the two nickel backs. It's not Billings. But thankfully, the profiles are relatively the same, with Christensen being a little bit slow. So it would have worked out in my favor. So not a big mistake. Now, we'll go back to Pittsburgh. So I do look at the other team. I look at the coaches. I look at the last games to see if I can see a trend line, and then I start thinking about what do I know about this coach. In this case, I know that Invisible Witness is a good coach. He's going to mix it up. I look at my last game, which was the Jets game, which a good coach would look at that game and say, I've got a game plan where I think if I can shut down the run, I can really take Pittsburgh's defense to task, which isn't, I'm not going to beat them on the ground. I'm going to beat them in the air. And DP almost beat me through the air. So I'm going to do that. And maybe what I do is I switch it up a little bit and try a couple different things. And this is what I think, what I was thinking when I was thinking about Invisible Witness, right? So that's why I arrived at he's going to try to go long on me, and I need to take that away, especially since he has speed. Now, for my team, I'm okay showing you my depth chart because season's over and it's not going to hurt me. So I made a decision to go with Phillips over Burgess. I've been playing them both throughout the season. The main reason why I went with Phillips is because he has higher intelligence and he has higher skill. Because I'm playing short to medium, that matters more than arm strength. If I was playing medium to long, I would have started Burgess. I didn't do anything with my running backs. Don't need to change that. I didn't change my line. The main reason why is when I look at my two tackles, Holly's got speed. He's a good pass blocker. He's got lots of skill. And then, of course, Wakefield has good skill. He's got good speed. He's a good pass blocker. He's got good agility. None of my guys have strength. Now, I could have maybe played Robbins, but I chose not to because Wakefield's just done a good job this year for me. And I didn't see a need to change him. One thing I probably would have went back and changed is I probably would have not have started Shipley there. I would have probably started McClendon and moved Shipley over to right guard. But it's apples and oranges, really. I started him because of his pass block, because I knew I was going to be throwing the ball. McClendon the same way. Those are my two best pass blockers. And McClendon is just someone I'm high on to begin with because he's got good speed, he's smart, he's got really good agility, and he's strong. Boone was going to start no matter what because he's just my best center. Now, I did switch this up. I did start Flores, who of course got hurt. The reason why I went to Flores at wide receiver 1 is, like I mentioned, I need to attack the agility. He's got 100 agility. It makes sense. Bradley, I was going to go after the number 2 cornerback with speed because I felt that he wasn't as fast and I might be able to go after him. I went with Kruger on 3 because of the agility. again, I'm attacking the agility, right? And then Sturgeon was 4 because he's my fastest with the best hands and was the person I felt would match up well. No change at tight end. Bone was going to start because he's just one, he makes $13 million. There's no way he's sitting on the bench. But he's also the better of the two when it comes to speed and hands. On defense, and by the way, I did rotate my players. I'm just not going to show you everything. On defense, I went with Drake because Drake is the faster of the two. He's also stronger, so I could get that good combo. Baines was on the field quite a bit, though. I mentioned the two ends. So Hickson's is 81 speed, 77 agility, 71 strength. You got Perry, who has 87 speed, so that's just phenomenal. Maggie had a big game for me because I was rotating throughout the game, and he was able to come in with his 80 strength and really disrupt, and he was still fast. So at linebacker, I did switch it up. Normally, Pruitt plays in the middle. I moved him out to the edge because I needed to have faster linebackers to cover because I was going to play 3-4. So Pruitt's 89. Finley, of course, is 93. Both of those are going to be fast in blitzing and fast in coverage. And then I went with Ryan in the middle mostly because he has 83 speed and he has decent agility and McIntyre. The reality is I probably should have played Doherty instead. Um, but that's one half dozen one way, one half dozen the other, right? Uh, the mistake I made was I should have had Riley at CB1. Now, Riley did a good job of shutting down uh, receivers throughout the game. But the reason why is at 92, he was only giving up one speed to Andrade instead of Flores, who is my shutdown corner, by the way, giving up two. Um, Riley, both these guys are ball hawks, but one of the reasons why I tend to go with Flores a little bit more is the 83 skill. But had I done that, maybe I would have been able to stop a touchdown or two. It would have been a tall order. Kindle, I put on the field because of his agility. We talked about that earlier. Same with Hardaway. Um, and then, of course, I think one of the big things I probably should have done. Heller got hurt. Heller was the right choice. I put him on the field because of intelligence and skill. Fink, though, is a good backup, and Fink did largely a decent job in picking up once Heller went down. I should have probably played Meadows. I did against the Jets, and I didn't Hill because I thought that the speed differential plus the tackling of Taylor I needed in case he started to run the ball on me. And again, he's a ball hawk, but I think a lot of times that what may have ended up happening on some of these coverage things is uh, the reality is going back. Probably should have kept Pruitt in the middle because when I was running the dimes and so on, I think the problem I was running into was I had Ryan on the field instead of Pruitt, and that's my fault. I didn't think that one through well. And then of course on nickel I had Finley and Ryan instead of having Finley and Pruitt. So whenever I went to the nickel and the dime, and you'll see when I show you the game log, he absolutely killed me on nickel and dime plays, but it was because of this mistake right here. So because I'm knowing I'm playing a lot of nickel and dime, I should have kept Pruitt where he was instead of worrying about what would happen in the 3-4 when I was going to largely be a nickel and dime anyway. So that was a mistake on my part. Strategy wise, I mentioned I was going to go pass. So AZO Bengals is the playbook I'm using right now. AZ is just something I've used. Normally, I name something after Tarkov, or in this case, a nuclear reactor. So 65 means I was going to throw the ball a lot more, pit wide open. This is mostly spread and shotgun formations for me. So again, notice I'm not really running the ball because I felt like Invisible was going to key on me. AZDR new is just a new set of run and pass plays. I felt like I got this right, but I feel like me making the mistake on the depth chart really hurt me. Game planning, I didn't change much from the Jets at all. I kept it aggressive. I kept it pass. I don't think I really changed anything here. I did change. I didn't change this because I had it on long passing for the Jets too. So uh, largely, I was able to do pretty well. I think so. We'll look at that real quick, and what you'll see is the actual impact of the game, right? So if we look at the show scores, go to box scores, what you see is kind of what I'm talking about. So when we look at Carolina, uh, what you immediately notice is he had very big success against my nickel defense. And one of the reasons why is my linebackers. I run a lot of mixed coverage, so my linebackers occasionally will be in coverage. 4-3, that's not a shock to me that he slayed that. 3-4, that one's a little bit, but he consistently got me in the nickel. So just a great job game planning from Invisible Witness. I knew he would run a lot of 3-4 and a 3 front, so I was prepared for that, and I was able to largely do very well in the passing game, as you can see. And again, I didn't run the ball all that frequently, which probably took him a little bit as a shock. When we look at the box score, Zelensky had probably one of his not so good games, which is still really good, by the way. I was able to stop the run the way I wanted to. Andrade did really cover a lot of ground, but it was really McGowan and Pierce who scored. And then on defense, De La Garza picked one off, and then Crutchfield picked it off. So this is a linebacker. This is his backup strong safety. I think that's his, or is it backup free safety? It's backup free safety who came into the game. And he was able to exert pressure. I didn't think Tate would start because Tate was questionable. By the way, Tate is a former Steeler. I actually drafted him. Again, another one of my boneheaded moves is I let him go to Baltimore in a trade, and that was just stupid. But what you can see here is a lot of what I tried to do worked. Riley had a really good game. Uh, Ryan had an okay game. York had an okay game. But the one thing you notice here is Flores has been pretty good throughout the season about pass defenses. He just had a bad game. And it was a bad matchup. I shouldn't have put him where he was. Over here, you can see that the receiving scheme largely worked the way I wanted to. Boehm had a good game with the short passing game. So did Sturgeon. So did Krugel. Flores got hurt very early in the game, so never know what he did, but Phillips had a good game. Now, when you look at it, he threw his interceptions all in the first quarter. So, first series, he threw an interception. Second series, he threw an interception. And then he finally calmed down enough that he was able to throw well. So, that's how I did the game planning. It worked out in this case, thankfully. But kudos to Invisible. It was a great game plan on his side. That game could have went either way. I do wish that I had thought about it a little bit differently instead of trying to focus as much as I did on the 3-4 and the 4-3. On the running side, I should have thought about the impact of moving Pruitt out of the center at middle linebacker to the edge. I probably wouldn't have done that in hindsight. But when you go up against a good coach like Invisible Witness, you're going to make mistakes. And in this case, I was able to survive those mistakes. So great job. So that's it for this video. We are moving into the off season. So we have awards that'll run tomorrow night. And then on Tuesday, we'll do the season flip. And then after that, we are moving on. We have some really good teams still out there that are free, like Arizona is one of them. Um, I'm thinking that they're really the only CPU team out there that made it to the playoffs, but you've got Seattle and a bunch of other teams out there. Cincinnati's another team you probably should take a look at. Kansas City is yet another. So you've got quite a few teams. Chicago, if you're big into the Windy City, that you could join our league. We have great coaches here. They've done a phenomenal job. And I think I become like the fourth person who's ever had a 19-0 season. Um, there were two people with fifth person actually. Yeah, fourth person, but there have been, I think, a total of like 6 times it's happened. Twice I think was with Grasshopper. Once was with Butcher Jack, and then twice with Peter, and then me. So great season. Thanks, everyone. And that's it for now. Thank you.